Hi everyone. So I think over the last few days, I've been wanting to revisit this idea of the poser, and I think it's very interesting in pretty much all alternative or any sort of outsider or underground subcultures. There's this wanting to keep certain people out, or keep, in this case, the people that you want to keep out are the people who are considered, or that you or other people might consider to be inauthentic or fake, or people who want to appear as if they understand the ideas behind the culture or subculture when they really don't. But I think it's interesting because I think this term has been applied to so many things and used in all sorts of contexts, and including, with irony and without irony and all these things, that we might associate the use of this term more with people who are beginners to the certain culture, subculture, counterculture, or whatever. Not just because they're the ones who it might be applied most often to, most commonly to, but also because they are oftentimes the same people who tend to use that term the most, which is very interesting. But I was thinking about that, and the more I think about it, the more I think it actually makes sense that it's beginners mostly who do this. I was thinking about this video made by a lolita YouTuber, and she was commenting on this drama that happened a little while ago in a lolita Facebook page about a girl who was the poster was talking about how she saw a girl wearing a horrible replica from Amazon dress, and how she didn't know how to coordinate it well, and she looked terrible and all these things. And people were sort of dogpiling against her for, a good reason, I guess, but maybe some people went overboard, and, basically the same thing was being said over and over about how, she was being judgmental and gatekeeping, and how people were afraid of joining the community precisely because of people like her. But what I think is very interesting is that you could tell from, and I think in her own post, she admitted that she was very new. She was very much a beginner herself, and she was making this judgment on other people, even though she herself was also a beginner. And I think that the points that the YouTuber made about this post and the whole phenomenon were very interesting, because she was talking about something that I feel like most of us already know to some degree, that a lot of the time beginners want to distance themselves and differentiate themselves from the posers by calling other people posers, or iras in the case of lolitas, which is essentially the equivalent term to poser. And the beginners want to establish their status as genuine members of the subculture by telling you or showing you that they know what the real I guess in terms of metalheads, for example, what the real bands are, what the true metal is, what the most respected bands are, that things of the sort. Or in the case of Lolita, of course, it's about what Lolita is, what the main brands are, what makes a good chord, things like that. And in the case of things like goths, of course, a little bit about the history. You can name a couple of bands and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing that makes generally for like a true person or whatever, a genuine goth, if you will. And I was thinking of that because I remember that I had an experience kind of recently-ish. You'll see a little snippet of me near the end, sort of confronting my cringier early self of like 10 plus years ago. When I remember when I was rather young, when I was sort of in the ending of elementary school, the beginning of middle school, and I was sort of on my edgier, phase. I remember that I discovered, sort of in my process of discovering bands, I often really wanted to know whether those were bands that were considered true or not, or rather bands that were considered, bad bands or poser bands or not metal bands or whatever, what have you. I would make it a point to not listen to those bands because I didn't want to end up liking bands that were considered to be poser bands or, you know, fake metal or whatever you might want to call it. Which at the time new metal wasn't, you know, given much respect, and, you know, it wasn't taken very seriously. So I never really made it a point to listen to Korn or Slipknot or anything like that because I didn't want to end up liking it, and, you know, I didn't end up like loving it that much either way, regardless of, you know, how I felt about it initially. But the point being that I think it's really interesting and kind of funny, even looking back now, that I avoided bands, I avoided liking things that I could have enjoyed because I didn't want to be seen a certain way, and because I wanted other metalheads to know that I was true and to respect me and to recognize me as someone who was a real metalhead. But what's interesting is that at some point I decided that I didn't care that much. And initially you might think that that's just because of maturity. And of course I think that's partly because, you know, I grew up and time went on and stuff like that. But I think it's also partly because as I went out and, you know, I met other metalheads and stuff like that, I started to notice that I wasn't really being questioned on my realness very much. And so that kind of told me that I was somewhat of a, you know, accepted or, you know, a recognized metalhead, if you will, you know, that other metalheads did consider me to be one of them. Not because they told me so, but, you know, because of their general attitudes and, you know, their attitude towards me and the things that they said and stuff like that. And I think that the kind of reception and attitude is what makes it easier for someone to drop the whole poser thing and not really care about it at all. And I think that's partly why I stopped caring, because at that point I didn't really have any reason to care at all, because I wasn't on this line, this really sort of flimsy line between beginner and poser, where you kind of have to prove yourself to some degree in a way. But I think that all groups of this type to some degree ask you to prove yourself. Even if it's not explicitly, a lot of the time, sometimes it's something very casual, like asking you what bands you like, or, you know, asking you about what you like overall in terms of, you know, if it's maybe like lolita fashion or whatever. Just these kinds of conversations, they help to, you know, for the previous members, I guess, for them to know who is there for real and who isn't. And there's also been discussions inside the lolita fashion. You have probably seen Tyler Willis talking about how some degree of gatekeeping is good and should happen. And Morbid Sleep actually has, I know I talk about her all the time, but she really has a great channel, and in one of her videos she talks about how some gatekeeping is actually good. I mean, there's some degree of gatekeeping that kind of has to happen. And of course, you know, not everything can be metal, so of course there has to be some gates there at some point. And it's not really necessarily the same thing as elitism, but it's sort of saying, well, what makes something metal and what makes something not metal. But what I think is interesting again is this moment in you, or, you know, any person joining a subculture in which they are not sure how they're gonna be received. So their approach might be kind of defensive, or might be kind of aggressive towards people who are posers, and they're sort of like a low hanging fruit for them, you know, like in order to prove yourself or prove that you are for real or true, you might point at other people and say, oh, I know that that's fake, I know that that's a poser, or that that's an ira or whatever. But I'm not, this isn't really, what I'm trying to get at is that it's not really a matter of being a good or bad person, or being an asshole or not a good person or whatever, but I think it depends a lot on what phase you are in your sort of metalhead a lifetime or timeline, I guess. Because if you are not at any risk of being called a poser, if your status as a metalhead has already been established and people know who you are and they know that you're for real and all these things, then you have no reason to even worry about this label or what happens to it or who gets called that or whatever, because it doesn't really bother you or affect you anymore. But someone who is sort of in the beginning or starting off, they might be more willing to not just be worried about who gets called a poser or not, but also maybe more willing to use the term, unironically, and also may be more worried about what bands are considered posers or not. And of course, again, that also depends a lot on age and things like that. But I think what I'm trying to get at it is that I think the people who, it's kind of easy, to say that it doesn't matter, you don't care about who's a poser, that you don't care about whether you get called a poser or not, when you already have yourself as a metalhead established in this group, or as a goth, or as a lolita, or whatever other groups there might be, because you're not in this sort of delicate state anymore in which you could be called a poser, and other people might agree, of course. And we're not necessarily talking about being called a poser in a sort of ironic way, or as a joke or whatever. We might, and the thing is, calling someone a poser isn't necessarily something that happens quite that way, because the term has been so overused at this point that oftentimes it's used comically or humorously. So a lot of the times people might just imply that kind of thing in order to insult you, instead of just calling you a poser, because it's such an overused word. So people might just imply that you are inauthentic overall, and authenticity is, of course, something that metalheads and generally alternative types of people will value a lot, because that's essentially what makes the main sort of core value of them as a community. I actually made a survey a long while ago, a couple of years ago, in my city about metalheads and what they value most, what kind of values they give more importance to in their communities as metalheads anyway. And I asked a lot of different things, but one of the main things that I was expecting, but that I was surprised at how stark it was, is that authenticity was one of the main and the most important values for them. And that for the most part they didn't necessarily associate a lot of different values with being a metalhead, but that was the one that was the most commonly cited. So I think that actually says a lot about us and about what we do value, and I think that's precisely why being called a poser is such a big deal. I mean, at least, when you get called a poser or get called inauthentic, in all seriousness, that kind of is a big deal, because someone is saying that you lack a value that is so important in this culture, that if you lack that value, you can't possibly belong in it. And like I was saying, I remember very strongly caring about what other metalheads thought of as a poser thing, right? And I mostly got that knowledge not from face-to-face interaction, because when you're in middle school or whatever, you're not exactly going out every night. But I mostly got that knowledge of what's considered fake and what's considered true from the internet. And so that's why I ended up with this really I guess sometimes even contradictory ideas of what makes a poser and what makes a non-poser, or real metalhead. I remember also looking at all of these videos or comments and all these things back then that said or implied that certain bands were poser bands, like Disturbed, any kind of new metal or alternative metal, or anything, metalcore, things of the sort. And again, I think that's a big reason of why I did back then, when that was a bit bigger, those genres were a bit bigger than they are now. I didn't really listen to them because I didn't want to be seen as fake, of course. And looking back, I mean, I somewhat regret it, but at the same time, I knew that I already liked the music that I was listening to. And the little metalcore and the little new metal that I listened to, I wasn't necessarily that into, but I could have found things that I would have liked a lot, maybe. And I think I also got the idea for this video because I constantly do remember hearing people say that you never see those really established metalheads, especially, older ones or what have you, calling older people posers because they just don't care about that. And it's oftentimes almost said as like a sort of reflection of their character, which in part it might be. I mean, if you don't call people a poser, maybe it's because you're just not a judgmental person, But I think it also says a lot about the status of that person and the way that that status works within that community. And another thing that I was thinking about is that this doesn't just apply to calling other people something, or gatekeeping, or elitism, but also just to appearance in general. Like maybe a elder, if you will, like very elite or very established member, might not really feel the need to wear band shirts or their battle vests or battle jackets anymore, because everyone knows what bands they like, everyone knows who they are, everyone knows that they're true, if you will. So I think it also sort of extends itself to many things, not just your attitude, but also the way you choose to dress and stuff like that. And of course, there's exceptions in everything, but I think it can be seen as sort of a common pattern. And again, it's not really a matter of personality necessarily, but obviously there's people who just don't care what others think, regardless of their face or status or their time, how long they have in the community or anything like that. But at the same time, I do think that we do all care what others think of us to some degree, especially if there are people who we have something in common with and we have a reason to want their acceptance. And I think it might also be just partly location. I mean, I haven't really been in many different communities because I have only lived in like one city in my life. So but I do sometimes I get the feeling that maybe metalheads from my country, for some reason, they appear to me oftentimes that they take themselves more seriously as metalheads, and that they are trying to be more true or traditional than how US metalheads, for example, take themselves, not in a way that isn't quite as serious. So I don't have a lot of memories from that time to show you, from 10, 20 years ago, well, not 20 years ago, 10 to maybe 12 years ago, when I started listening to metal. But I do have a video of me reacting to a previous channel that I had several years ago, where I uploaded videos that you're gonna find kind of cringy, most likely, I guess. And so I wanted to insert that here in this video. It's probably gonna end up being a very long video, this one, but I just wanted to show you that because I felt like I just wanted to go down memory lane again and think about my early metal edgy kid era, and what that says about partly me, and what it says about the metalhead community in general, I guess. And of course, some of these things are just my experience and to some degree my assumptions, and I also want to maybe show you some results from that survey that I mentioned before. I was thinking of that a while ago, but I don't know, I haven't really gotten back to that. I guess I can say that at this point I don't really care about being called a poser, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not really social enough to have established myself in any social circles particularly. Now, of course, I don't think everyone who acts this way necessarily has this specific insecurity, or they're necessarily doing it because they want to fit in. I think sometimes people are just assholes, of course. I think there's always those people who just think you're a poser if you don't like the bands that they like, or they think that the bands you like just kind of suck or whatever. And for some reason, it's also become kind of common to conflate having bad taste with being a poser, or being inauthentic, when you might have heard a lot of different metal, but maybe you decided that you liked the bad one the most, the corny, whatever bands are considered bad, or whatever subgenres are given less respect, whatever that may be, you might just like those more, even if you have explored a lot of different types of things. I don't really want to seem like I'm trying to justify the use of the term poser, especially the overuse of the term, but I think there's people who don't really think that much about why people use this term poser, why it's used, what exactly we are talking about when we talk about a poser. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a whole thing, but yeah, I hope it was interesting. I want to know what you think about it, what you think about this whole discussion. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi everyone. So it's really late at night, but I really have to record this right now because I feel like you're not gonna get my real reaction to this if it's not right now. So this is a channel that I had a long time ago. As you can see, these videos are 10 years ago or more, or older than that. And I was thinking of this channel because I was thinking about that video where I was talking about the albums that I liked more when I was like 12 or so, or rather when I was like beginning of middle school or ending of elementary school. I was trying to find, you know, what exact albums and what exact songs I liked the most and I listened to the most. There used to be a notebook that I would write song lyrics in a lot, but I eventually, I'm pretty sure I threw it away because I was kind of cringing at the sight of that notebook. It was a huge notebook, and I wrote lyrics there, and I used to, you know, write lyrics of songs that I liked, of course. And sometimes I did it in like a font that was like super creepy and like devilish or something like that, with like horns or things like that. I don't know, things like that. I would also draw band logos and things like that, like, you know, Creator, Death. I probably did try it at some point. I don't know, just whatever band I liked or whatever song I liked. It reminded me of this channel, of course. I'm cringing so much. And what's funny is that these videos have more views than my actual videos here on this channel. They have thousands of views, and I'm cringing at myself. I don't even want to click and look at the actual comments because I feel like that's going to kill me. I wonder if I made translation. Oh yeah, some of them are just lyric videos, and some of them I translated them to Spanish. I could have sworn that I had one with Creator lyrics of Impossible Brutality, or maybe I just edited it and I never actually published it, or maybe that was even before I had this channel. That's likely actually, because I remember being into that band, especially more than 11 years ago, probably 12 or 13. Let me just click on it because I want to just get this out of the way. I also found this other channel through this one, which is probably also me, most likely also me, but I have no videos in it. It's probably me because it says Sacred Serenity, which was a song that I liked a lot at the moment. Of course I love it as well right now, but as you can see, in 98, I was born in 1998, so yeah, this is most likely me. And I just have to show this to you. I have 20 subscribers. I have no idea who those people are. Let me just click on this video because I need to watch it. I need to read the comments just to get it out of the way. I don't know. I remember making more videos like this one. This is Theater of Tragedy. I swear, I assure you that I have other videos like this, probably on another channel. Creation Malévola was actually my main handle for a long time. I had an email with that handle. I'm pretty sure 2 different emails, one Gmail and one Hotmail or whatever. For a long time it was like my main handle on the internet, like whenever I visited any website. And it's just great. Now I do feel like this, I can tell this is more recent because of the editing of these videos. It's definitely not as crude as the earlier Windows Movie Maker days. This is definitely a more updated version of the Windows Movie Maker thing. I think, but not that updated. I mean, you can clearly tell by the, you know, changing of the colors of the album cover and all that. I mean, but what gives it away, I think, is the font. I think there's something about it, or maybe it's, you know what, I think it's actually PowerPoint, now that I think of it. I think it's PowerPoint. It looks terrible, and it's a bunch of different like I was trying to use all the fonts at once or some shit, I don't know. If I see this, oh my god, this guy's telling me that the edition is terrible, but they like this translation. I have to tell him that this is me. I have to. I just feel like I have to. No, I can't. That's even that. I don't know. I was trying to use all of the fonts all at once. Like for some reason, it's like I need to use all of them, and it looks so outdated. It looks terrible. It's just terrible. God, I hate it. I don't want to look at them, but I just have to. I guess I have to. Because it's about cringing, you know, I have to cringe. Oh my god, I can't believe myself. Oh my god, no, I can't. I hate it so much. I hate looking at this. It's terrible. I hate... just think it's great. All of the fonts, you have to look. I have to show you how many fonts I have on PowerPoint or Windows Movie Maker, and how many melancholic and sad emo images I have saved on my folder on my computer. No, man, I don't want to look at the comments. This is the weirdest one. Amor satin in a coffin. This is real weird because the images that are used are so strangely morbid and so overly serious for a song that has a tone that is so like satirical and almost like humorous. And it's like, why are you showing them a river of blood? I mean, it is about death, the song, but the tone just doesn't fit. And look at the font. I mean, it's just, I hate it so much. This is the one that I hate. I hate this so much. It doesn't make sense. I don't remember, by the way, this song. I had forgotten about the existence of this song, Over You by The Gathering. It was sort of a hidden track or something in one of their albums. This font, by the way, the one that the username is in, I used to use that font for everything. I downloaded it a while ago. Well, obviously it was a long while ago. I downloaded it and I was using it for everything. I guess I'm just doing this because I was never able to find that other notebook where I had the lyrics and stuff like that. But interestingly, I think that notebook would have been less cringy in a way because, you know, it's just lyrics of songs that I like. Whereas these videos, those videos just seem almost like pretentious, like what the fuck are you trying to do here? I don't understand, you know. Let me see if I can find the other one. The other songs that I'm telling you about, that I'm pretty sure I made before. I'm not sure if I made a lyric video or a translation video, but let me see if I can find it. I had a couple of different handles while I was into metal and while I was on YouTube, because I'm a fairly young person, so I pretty much grew up with YouTube. I was a kid. I don't think I'm gonna find it. I think I'm starting to almost fear that I might have just deleted that channel or deleted my videos out of self-awareness, but I'm gonna try and look if I can get to my creator Malevola channel again and try and delete those videos, because once I have this video up, I don't want to have those anymore. Like, that's just cringe. I hate the editing, the weird image decisions, everything. Just it was bad. I mean, I don't want to have it up there, with my name on it. I mean, it's not my name, but with my anything regarding me, or I mean, obviously I am telling you that is me. And believe me, I wouldn't only just take someone's cringy videos and be like, look at this, is cringe. No, I'm doing that because that's me, I think it's a bit healthier to look at your own cringe sometimes. I can't find it. Maybe I edited those videos and never uploaded them. There was a music video that I made, a fan-made music video, if you will, of The Gathering, Debris, and it's not here anymore, it seems, but I used a music video by The Agonist, I think, in order to have that as part of the fan-made music video of The Gathering. For some reason, I don't know what my logic was, but I did that, and it's just strange to think about how much time I spent editing videos that were so low quality and weren't even original in any way, and nobody really needed, and they weren't interesting at all. And I mean, I guess you could say that my current videos aren't that interesting either, but at least they are original, and I'm not using other people's content just directly. I guess I could be using other people's content when I comment on things or review books or albums and stuff like that, but this is completely, but I of course I can forgive myself. I was a kid. You don't have that much of an identity and that much of a grasp on what you have talents in when you're that age. what I do regret is that I never started playing guitar or bass or anything like that when I was that age, because if I had started 10 years ago, I feel like I would be pretty good now. And if I had, been practicing that whole time, I would be pretty good now. But yeah, this is just something that I don't like to see. Believe me, I don't like it. But anyways, I hope you found this video entertaining in some way, even though it's terrible and there's a lot of embarrassment and cringe going on here, but it is what it is. Yeah, I love this because I couldn't find it. I completely threw it away, that notebook where I had the lyrics, but that came to bite me in the ass because that was less embarrassing than these videos are now to me. And those are now on the internet for everyone to see, as opposed to that other thing that, that other notebook. Who was gonna see the notebook? I mean, no one, unless I, specifically came into this channel and showed it to you. But this, I mean, this is just, we all those cringe things when we're early teens, cringe, children or whatever. Could have been worse, I guess, but yeah, I guess I understand how people say, people who are older than me, I understand why they say that they're glad that they grew up without YouTube, and when YouTube started they were already a little bit older, so they had a little bit more sense not to embarrass themselves on camera for everyone to see. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.